And the first like 4 pages are the ones that everybody buys, and then mine would be on page 986. So it didn't do anything, it didn't move at all. And that's why I am more hell bent on trying traditional publishers and people. And I sent that coloring book out to quite a few traditional publishers, and I'd say about 80% of them that get back to me is just an automated response. Oh, thanks, thanks, we'll see what happens, never get back to me again. But I had a few that got back to me, a handwritten response. And because here's what I did. I kind of knew that they weren't going to publish coloring books. A lot of them just don't do that for whatever reason. But I sent it anyway. And what I did is I put a little in my note to them, telling them what it is. I said that I'm in the process of making a graphic novel at the moment too. And the few responses I got back that were encouraging said, sorry, we don't make coloring books, blah, blah, blah. We really like your style and would like to take a look at your graphic novel whenever it's done. Please send it to us. And that's what I was actually looking for, was that foot in the door. So I think out of I sent it to about 30, 35 different, pretty much every publisher I could find. And I believe 4 or 5 of them got back to me with the handwritten, hey, no, we don't do that, but we'd like to look at your graphic novel when it's done. So in a way, I kind of, succeeded in my mission, which was, just to try to get them to see my art. And, that's all I was trying to do. And it worked. So, hooray. Now we'll see what happens after that. Hopefully, if my predictions are right, I'll be done with the book, around probably the middle of the year, maybe May-ish, depending on everything, just my life doing what it normally does, and, hopefully, barring that nobody gets sick or any major injuries or life events happen, because I've literally had to not put it off, but I've tried writing this book several times and started over several times because I get to a point where I'm like, this doesn't feel good, and as an artist, if it doesn't feel good, if you're an artist, you know what I mean, if it just doesn't feel good to you, then so I started over several times. I mean, the one good thing is that I can use those for sequels, in part of my series, so it's not a total loss, but still, I got all these books over here, 10 of these sketchbooks full of half-started books that I'm trying to do, and none of them just panned out to me, so I started over. Maybe being a little anal, but just wasn't feeling right. So I finally got it feeling right. Now I'm almost done with the rough draft, and I can start the final draft. And I imagine, the idea is to sell, to make some money with my art and, with my books. And it's not like I would have to be a freaking bestseller to make some money, enough money to change my life. I'd quit my liquor store job and focus on my art completely. And that would be awesome. And that's the idea. And it's all it would take is one book to sell to be able to do that. I'm not in a shitload of debt. I got 10 grand in student loans left over, and that's about it. And maybe another $1,000 in random debt from other stuff. But I mean, I don't have mortgages or car notes or any of that bullshit going on. I own my car. And so yeah, it's yeah, that's the idea. But I imagine if I sold the book, if I sold my book, it wouldn't take, a year to make another one. I'd be heavily motivated at that point. I wouldn't have to be working at my liquor store job, which does take time, and effort and stuff. And I'd be my own boss, and it'd be up to me to do it. So, but I imagine if I had some success with one of them and was making a runner-up sequel, I imagine it would only take me maybe 3 or 4 months, because I'd be just busting ass on it constantly, So that's the idea, and in the meantime, I do these YouTube shorts and, trying to diversify I'm waiting on a couple bucks to come in, and hopefully if that does, I can buy some equipment I need so I can stream on Kick a little more effectively. So now you see these little details, like, you know, the tides coming up against the stuff there. Just adds that little bit of extra, you know, pizzazz. Okay. And we'll do some light ones kind of around these guys because they're all bunched up together, so we don't want it to get too crazy. And these island chains. You might be thinking to yourself, at least I did in the beginning, maybe you should focus on AI, and maybe I will at some point. You know, some of those programs cost some money. So, you know, maybe if I can do some successful stuff with my graphic novels, maybe I'll start like a AI story channel on YouTube where I can bust out some short stories. But, you know, the reason I'm doing it hand-drawn like this is for one reason. Like, AI, people are already getting sick of AI. People are already kind of sick of it. They want more authenticity in their lives. And I'm not saying I'm the answer, but what you will get with me is authenticity. I'm not using AI. I'm hand-drawing everything. I'm talking with you. You know, you're seeing me do it, the process, everything. And AI is great and all that. But it's just like computer graphics, you know, when they came out in the 90s, they were barely used, and that's when they were best used. Like in Jurassic Park, a lot of people think, oh, that movie has, you know, all this computer animation. Well, it was actually used very sparingly. Same with like the prequels, the Star Wars prequels. People actually, when they see those, they think nothing but computer animation. But there's actually quite a bit of practical effects in those movies, with the aid of CGI, which is when they're best, which is when CGI is at its best, is when it's used in tandem with something. You know, I think the Scorpion King movie proved that CGI just by itself was shit, you know? And people got sick of it, and they wanted more authenticity. And here we are in this day and age with all the computers and technology and all that, and people want way more, they want more practical stuff because it's real. And that's what I'm betting on, you know? Books aren't going anywhere, people. And, you know, even if you decide to get my graphic novel and then read it on your iPad instead of having it as a book, that's your choice. But, you know, tangible things are good. You know, books that you can hold in your hand and read, there's just a certain thing about that. And that's what I'm shooting for with my books, is that they're going to be handmade, just like all of them are, I guess. But, you know, just not using AI. Not close to the idea. Like I said, maybe one day I'll start another YouTube channel where I do nothing but AI stories and shit, but not today. Not today. Today we're just doing the hand-drawn stuff, keeping it alive. And I like the old practical stuff. I like the old effects, you know? You know, eventually I want to do something, I got this effect, I'm sure you've seen it before. You know, but that effect, you know, where no matter how you look at it, you got a different perspective. So I want to draw like a big one, you know, where you can have guys coming in and running around on the roof getting chased by stuff, and there's different things you can do with the perspective, you know. So there's lots of things I would like to do, you know, with art. The biggest hurdle is the money. It's always the fucking money, you know. Pisses me off that so many people are held back by money. Draw some mountain ranges on these guys now. Yeah, it sucks that money holds so many people back from, you know, their true potential, you know. It sucks, and so it pisses me off that such an abstract thing holds everybody back. You know, even to go on a great adventure, you need money, you know, like this. You'd have to have some money to go on some kind of adventure. And it just pisses me off that that's the biggest hurdle for many people, for many things. So, with a little luck and some hard work, maybe I can make a few bucks and support myself with my art. And this is not a good representation of my art. This is just a sketch that I'm farting around with. Yeah, don't take this and judge it as my art, because it's not. It's a cool thing I'm doing, but it's just a quick sketch, you know. Sketches to me though are some of the best things to look at. I'd much rather look at Leonardo da Vinci's sketches than his finished works, you know. You can see a lot in a sketchbook. You see the artist's ideas and what's going on in their mind, you know. And I'd much rather look at an artist's sketchbook any day of the week. A lot of cool shit goes in the sketchbooks, you know. My sketchbook's got a lot of cool stuff in it. That's where some of my favorite stuff that I've done is at. So we make the mountains, and they're just little, you know, triangle type things, and you just kind of place them wherever, and don't bunch them up too much. Alright. Yep. So we got our mountains on all those places. Looking good, looking good. And we'll put a few in here just for good measure. Yeah, man, it would be really cool. So that's going to be my second graphic novel idea. And then with a little luck, they'd both do well, and I could do like 4 books a year. Maybe that's probably too many. But do at least 2 or 3 books a year. You know, where I'm doing like one in this series, one in that series, one in this series, one in that series, you know? But you don't want to get burned out either, you know? It's easy to get burned out. I was getting kind of burned out on my YouTube. I was trying to get to it every day and make more videos and stuff. And it seems like I get a lot of my views from shorts, and I get like almost no views on my long form videos. I don't know why. It is what it is. So I'm going to start live streaming pretty soon here, kind of like what I'm doing right now, where I'm just kind of rambling and talking with you guys. And, you know, hopefully that'll do a little better, but we shall see. So, let me see here. What else should we put in here? We should put some, kind of some dots here and there. You know, I had some calligraphy paper. That's what I should have used for this. It was like map paper pretty much. I don't know why I didn't use that, because I enjoy drawing maps. Always have. Should draw a couple ships in here somewhere, and like some eyeballs or something. Ooh, let me see here. I'm missing like a key. Where can I put the key? Okay, so you can always kind of do like something like that. Nothing too crazy. Just put like a right here. Kind of make them look fancy if you can, because people got to know which way they're going, right? Yeah, you gotta know which way you're going. West and east. Alright. Yep, throw those buggers in there. You know, it's funny, it's like usually when I'd be drawing, I'd have some background noise on or something like that, and I hope this doesn't piss any of you off, but a lot of the background noise that I like is just those two guys, those Kino Casinos, those guys, the Kino Casino. They're a couple of fucking hooligans, you know, but I don't know, for some reason I've come to like those guys, like their content, you know. And usually it's just talking shit and dogging people. But it's not like they're dogging old ladies with the Salvation Army. The people they're dogging are like the dregs of the universe, you know. Some of these people are just the worst, you know. They're people that would come out of a place like this, you know, monsters that belong in the ocean. People like iDubbbz and the Quartering, you know. I used to watch that guy, the Quartering, you know, back when all the culture war bullshit first started and pandemic and everything. I used to watch that guy, and but man, his quality of work has just gone down, down, down. He's a sunken ship in one of these waters in here somewhere. And what pisses me off about it is, like, here's me. I'm trying to, like, get a presence on YouTube, on social media. I'm doing whatever I can, you know, like, I want to do something with art, and I want to do something with kind of talking about current events, so I just put them together and do what I'm doing right now, where I'm talking and doing the current events and talking about a subject. I'll pick a subject about conspiracy theory or something and talk about that, kind of segue off into current events and shit. And you know, it pisses me off when somebody like Hambly is like, YouTube's on its way out, nobody can do anything, you know, I wouldn't even bother trying to make a fucking career here. And I don't know, it just pisses me off because, like, what, because your channel sucks, because you suck, because you're always shilling your crappy coffee, or you're always shilling whatever, or perving on your female co-host or whatever. That's why your shit's going down, Ham Planet. It has nothing to do with YouTube. So it kind of gets on my nerves a little bit when somebody like him is like, yeah, YouTube's on its way out, you know, and it's like, well, what am I even trying for? If I believed him, which I don't. I think YouTube is probably what you make it. I'm sure there's some kind of algorithmic, you know, stuff involved, but how much, I don't know. I'm sure if you just sit there and talk shit all day about the president or Israel or something, you probably won't get very far on YouTube. So I imagine there's a game to be played, and I imagine you just gotta play it. But, you know, what I've seen the Ham Planet do is, you know, he's shilling constantly, you know. It's like, I got premium so that I don't have to see ads and shit. So, like, if I turn you on and you're supposed to be talking about how much you fucking hate the woke left, and you're rambling about your damn coffee and how much shits you take in a day and all this fucking stuff, then there's no... I don't see why you'd be surprised that your channel's tanking when that's what you're talking about, you know? I don't know, people. It pisses me off when I see people that... And he had a channel... Fuck. If I could have 1/10 of the channel that man had,